And first trial exam. Where is our Teams? Let's put it here. Trial exam task. What did this thing do? Ew. Code snippet. Veel koledam. This is what you will get typically on your examination, now and in the future. It's vague, it doesn't specify a lot. This is by design. So the last paragraph there. So those are the broad guidelines. So do your best effort with this task. So there will be in the examination, there will be about 3, 4, 5, 6 different tasks. So choose one randomly on the paper and go and do it. So now you need to start to think, what the hell will I do? Plus you have not really unlimited amount of time. So let's say design your work around some 8 hours or something like even better about 3, 4 hours. Shouldn't take more. And start to think, what can you do on that time frame? What's the MVP, the minimum viable product, so that at least something is working, and start to go step by step. So what to do here? So you need to think a little bit what is actually asked, what would be kind of like the minimum viable or minimum application, and what would be kind of like nice to have future, or what can I add later on? So how can I expand my solution? So what is this thing asking here? So create a simple application for recipe book. Okay, recipe is ingredients, amounts of ingredients in recipe. Okay, so there are ingredients, there are amounts of stuff. So implement recalculation of amount for servings needed. So this means that if my recipe original one is, let's say, for 5 people, then I can ask from the system that, hey, how much stuff do I need for 7 people? So then it recalculates everything. So you need to first divide by 5 and then multiply by 7. Provide search functionality. So recipe name, description, ingredients. All right, so this is kind of first, you can look at it as a logical exercise. So what information do we have from here? So recipe has the name, recipe has description. There are some ingredients, probably ingredients also have a name. Then there is a quantity of ingredients in recipe, because we need to implement recalculation, so we need to recalculate of amount of for servings needed. So there is some kind of system with the servings. All right. Plus, can we do anything better? Like those are only broad guidelines. What else do we typically need or what would be like better cookbook? What functionality would be nice to have? Let's say recommendations, nice. Based on what? What's your typical exercise daily? Okay, you're not, everybody's young here, so they don't have kids, or maybe not that much. So, but what's the kind of like the biggest problem for the parents, at least? So I am now 47 years old, yes. Let's say I had my first kid when I was something like 27, so quite late actually, but still. So my oldest kid is almost 20 now, or close to it. So basically, for the last 20 years, every day, every evening, and Sundays and Saturdays on the morning also, I have to go open up the fridge and what the fuck will I do today to eat? So good question. How can we recommend, or just a thinking point, that maybe we can devise a system that when I say that I have that much milk, that much potatoes and something else, that I can filter out what recipes are even doable for me. Plus, let's say I have that amount of time or something like that. So what can I do today? Like recipe recommendation based on what I have on hand. Okay, maybe this will be kind of like too much, but at least I can see that this functionality can be added somewhere in the future. So first thing, let's design the minimum. So the first thing you need to do is to figure out what's your database like. So what are your domain entities? Sorry? Yes, it is recording. There is red line is around it. Plus this one is also recording. So let me also share a camera from here. Now I have a high quality camera. Yeah, it's not it's now 1080, not anymore 720p. So the first thing you need to start from is that, so this is a C# course. So we are not doing users and stuff like that. So it's a single user application, or let's say everything is public. So, but still it's web-based stuff. So recipe book, recipes, okay. Seems that there is a recipe. Then we have what the ingredient somewhere. Ingredient or something, or component or whatever what you want to call it. Then recipe has the name, it has some kind of description, and probably it has the servings. Then this seems to be like mandatory things, or at least those are listed here. So maybe also we can add like instructions or stuff like that, or we can gather everything under the description. Okay. So ingredient has the name. So now the question is, how do we deal with measurement units? Like definitely different ways, but typically what we have for every ingredient, we have kind of like standardized measurement units. But we can say like everything that is listed here under the ingredient as such is like one standard unit, yeah? Which is like for flour, it's 1 kilogram, for sugar, it's 1 kilogram, for milk, it's 1 liter. So we can say that everything what is here listed is kind of like, idea is it's a one standard unit. So we don't need to kind of like start to define units and it's liters and milliliters and stuff like that. So let's keep this one standard unit and we are happy. Maybe we can write here its name, maybe like milk 1 liter. So we can add the unit into the name itself. Okay. So ingredient basically just has a name. Do we want to kind of take care of people with different needs? like no gluten and no whatever this or that. So we can add some kind of like categories here. So ingredients can be like eggs, whatever is different. We can like divide those into the categories. But again, this can be left for the future maybe. So we have the recipe, we have the ingredient, and then we have somewhere in the middle here, we have the recipe ingredient. So here we have the recipe, we have the ingredient, then we have the quantity, and maybe it would be nice, let's add some kind of like a comment here. So every recipe has many ingredients. Every ingredient has just one recipe, and this line here only has one ingredient, and this ingredient can be in many places, in many recipes. Okay. Anything else that we need? Will this cover a typical kind of like family cookbook? So there is quantities here, and there is servings here. So this means that like for 5 people, milk 1 liter, you will need quantity, let's say 2.5. So this means that whatever the recipe is, in this recipe, to make it for the 5 people, you need 2.5 times the standard quantity of this thing. So and you actually now want to calculate it for the 7 people, then it will be 2.5 divided by the servings, multiplied by the amount of people coming. Then probably it's easy here to figure out, okay, there is this, what are those? Gluten? Vegan, semi-vegan, gluten, vegan, lactose. So we can add like different components here, and then probably ingredients. If we want to do it really well, then ingredients we can also categorize them. But we can leave this to the future. Let's say, so this is kind of like minimum viable product will be this. Simple application, yes, it is simple, hopefully. Recipes, ingredients, amount of ingredients in recipe, yes. Implement recalculation can be done for servings needed, yes, we have the servings. Somebody will then enter how much do they need currently. Provide search functionality over recipe name. Yes, we have the name, description, yes. And we have the ingredients. So, and provide search functionality over the ingredients, okay? Generally speaking, these are brought all right, so we have our stuff. So let's write an application. To write an application, start the code now. You have like 2.5 hours or something. Okay, so it is so simple that I will not even take a picture of it. So new solution.
It's ASP.NET Core Web Application. Let's put it somewhere. So it's an ExamDemoRecipe. Project name is WebApp. Type is not empty. Type is web application. No authentication. Let it be no authentication. We can copy the database stuff from somewhere and create. So initially we had this still the problem with the domain classes. We cannot make them initially or add them or position them into the separate project. So we need to do them here internally. So we have the domain. Dull, I think I can do immediately from in the outside project or external. Data access layer, class library. So this is my DbContext derived from the AppDbContect derived from the DbContext. And I need entity framework Core SQL. That one. Yep. So my initial empty DbContext. And in the domain, we just have, seems to be that we have 3 entities. Just to be, and when you are doing entities, you have to use classes. You can't use records. So this is limitation in the entity framework, how entity framework compares the entities. So is it in memory already or not? So it needs classes. So we have what? Recipe. Sorry? Yes, absolutely. Rider liked, IntelliJ liked, high contrast. ReSharper liked. Okay, let's keep it to the Rider liked. Let's rename the file. Recipe, then we have the ingredient. How do I even write ingredient? Ingredient? I'm losing my mind. Ingredient, yes, correctly. I had doubts in my head already. and recipe ingredient. So every entity framework entity needs a primary key, so don't forget that one. So different ways how to do it. If you want to kind of like be nice about it, then of course I will make something like this: base entity. This one will be an abstract class. So I can do something like this. So it's a class abstract. I cannot make an instance of it. I can only derive from it. And it has this one like fixed property ID. So now I can make all my classes derive from the base entity. So recipe has what, a name? Then it has the description. And then it has the servings. So this is probably integer. Now I have here this lines. So this is the non-nullable problem here. Since I'm big fan of turning those into the errors, so I cannot like leave those like this. I don't like it. So let's fix this thing here. Use a nullable references and turn all the warnings into errors. So I can just go and copy it from somewhere. I think I have it here. No? No, that one doesn't. So it's in the documentation. Where was it? Technical, I think, maybe. No? No? Where did we have it? Lectures, nullable reference. Was it here? Yes. So we need that one. And now they turned into the errors. So let's add a new solution folder here. Solution items. And readme. Okay. So this will be default, and this one will be also default. Plus, I know that I do not like unlimited length of strings, so I want to immediately limit those to the recipe name, maybe to the, I don't know, long name. I don't know, maybe 4 kilobytes should be enough. Ingredient. Ingredient name. What else did we need? Name. Let's say, probably I would like to make it as a separate string. What it is? Standard quantity. And recipe ingredient has recipe as ingredient, and it actually has only quantity and comment. So this will be, how do we measure quantities? Definitely not integers. So it has to be some kind of float. And then we have comment. Okay, this is it. I have my kind of like base data is there. Now I need to define the relationships between them. So ingredient has a collection of recipe ingredient. And this is nullable. If you don't do the if you do not do the join, if you don't include the stuff, then the list will be null, not an empty one. Okay, we have the from the ingredient to the recipe ingredient. This means that here we need the other end of the relationship, property ingredient, and this will also be a null.
This collection be a dictionary, for example, because we need to have an ingredient and quantity for every ingredient.
No. You can keep it in memory afterwards as a dictionary, but definitely Entity Framework doesn't support dictionaries like that. So you can make it as basically as a dictionary if you make an unique index out of it. So then you enforce that in this specific recipe, can this ingredient only be listed once? So this will be ingredient ID. And now looking from the recipe, this one needs, or recipe ingredient, this also has the recipe. So maybe the recipe is done in the first position. So this is it. And from the recipe, we also need the recipe ingredient. My collection, recipe ingredient. and this one is a null. Okay, seems to be all right. Oh, and now I cannot actually do this. I cannot keep AppDbContext externally because I cannot reference. It will be a circular reference because now the DAL needs to reference web application to get the domains, and then the web application wants to reference DAL. So can't do like this. So I need to add the DAL at least initially on the class interface on the directory. Here as a directory. And move it into here. Okay, now I can make my DbSets. So this will be the recipe. This will be the ingredient. And all those will be default. Where's my, okay, here. So I also maybe want to have this one, so no cascade delete. And if I really want to, do we want to keep that we can only list the same ingredient only once in every recipe? Like I cannot list the milk twice. So if you want to do something like this, so we can enforce it from the database. This means here in recipe ingredient, this recipe ID and ingredient ID, those have to be unique index. So now we can do it with an attribute index. How was it? Param string property names. Okay, there will be a name of. So this will be the ingredient or recipe ID. And ingredient ID. But this is params property names. Let me see. Property names, and I want to turn this into the array. No, cannot do it like this. So this has to be this. Okay, my name of directory. Can I do it like this? Interesting. Yep. Is unique, true. Okay, that one is not needed. Oh, okay, this is automatically. Okay, something like this should work, as I understand. So make an index out of those two fields and make it unique. See more information. Where's the more information? Huh. Okay, hopefully went okay. So now I'm basically ready to make a migration to see that my database works as I expect it to work. So now I need my console. So it was .NET EF migrations add initial migration, or maybe just initial. Project WebApp startup project is currently also WebApp. Stuff that I need to install. True. There is no AppDbContext here, so I need to configure it in the dependency injection engine. So I need this connection string, which I can get from the builder.configuration get connection string. Default, let's say app connection maybe is a nicer name. And then I need builder configuration add no, it's services, not configuration. Builder services add DbContext, which will be our AppDbContext. Options. Use SQL Server with this connection string. And now I actually need the connection string. So here I need something which was of object of some kind of, which was this app connection. This was something like, yep, connection strings. And what's the connection string? That one I don't know, but I can probably take it from here. Now it should work, hopefully. Yep, did work. Migrations. Let's see, what did we get? So let's start from the recipe. ID is an integer. Yes, identity. Recipe name, description, servings. Envarchar max length, that one, yes. And one primary key of ID. Okay, ingredients. ID, ingredient name, standard quantity. Oh, envarchar max. No, this is not nice. Okay, now those have limits. And somewhere is the recipe ingredients. ID, quantity is a float, okay. Comment, recipe ID, ingredient ID. Primary key, foreign key, create index. Yep, and the index is here. So the recipe ID, ingredient ID is unique, true. So it seems to be correct one.
How does it get connections from the JSON file?
This happens a little bit behind the scenes. So this, we need to kind of like discuss it at length. But this is kind of like the built-in behavior is that first it loads the AppSyntax JSON automatically into the configuration. You can actually change it if you really want to. And it all starts actually from here, from launch settings. So from here, it knows that the ASP.NET Core environment is development. So that AppSyntax JSON is loaded first. And then the development is loaded on top of it. So if you want to use a different connection string for the development purposes, then in production, then you can write it here. Or maybe, yeah, and we have out of the box, we have 3 environments, I think, development, staging, and production, yes. So you can add appsyntax.production.json here and staging.json. Plus you can define your own if you want to. But this is built into that app settings is by default is loaded. And then when the app settings is loaded and combined, then actually this environment variables, this will overwrite what is loaded in AppSyntax if you want to. So for example, you can define your database connection string as an environment variable. So it's outside of your source code totally. So it's not stored into the Git somewhere. But the functionality, how the AppSyntax JSON is loaded, basically it uses the standard serializer. It's a configuration, but there is like utility library we can that it uses behind the scenes. So you can use it also if you want to. So you can like make your own configuration JSON file somewhere and then load those and you get like out of the box parsing and stuff like that. And how to reference those. Okay, so our migrations went well. So now we are basically ready to scaffold our pages and validate that our model is working the way we want to, so that we have that the database structure that we think that should be okay, that it is actually okay. So we can actually like kind of like enter some kind of recipe and see that it is functional for us. So now we need to scaffolding. Let's put some code here for the future. So this is to scaffold the entity framework. And now I actually need to scaffold the pages. So that one I definitely do not remember out of my head. No, not listed here. So I have to go and look from the demo. Oh, it should be here in the documentation, actually. What the hell I'm looking for? Razor pages scaffolding. So I need this. I'm probably also forced that it will overwrite the stuff. Out there will be maybe nicer than. That's exactly. So I have my ingredient. So this will be the ingredients. Then it's the recipe. Let's see. I think I'm missing some app nougat package. That one went okay. So now we can do the rest of those. Non-nullable properties everywhere. So we can do this. Code, where is it? Surround with, comment with line comment. So let's remove it temporarily. Let's run it again. So I don't want to fix them one by one. So let's generate them all and then put errors back. And even before I start to fix the problems, I just want to run it and see that it is okay. So I need to fix also my layout. So I don't want to reference those manually. Recipes, ingredients, and recipe ingredients. Our ASP page will be this. And now we can actually try to run it. Recipe ingredient is a namespace, but it's used like the type. What? Oh, okay, there's a mistake here. Okay. Let's go back to the scaffolding. So it's recipe ingredients. Otherwise, I have conflicting names. Now it should be okay. Okay, first I need some ingredients. Okay, I don't have my database yet, so I need to actually apply the migration. What was it? .NET EF database project WebApp startup project is also WebApp update. Build failed. What? Oh, it was working. Stop. Yep, migration went okay. Now we can run it again. Okay, ingredients. Create new. Water, standard quantity, 1 liter. Create. Ingredients. Create new. Ingredient name. Potatoes. 1 kilogram. And then we now have the recipe. Recipe name. Boiled potatoes. Boil them. It will serve, let's say, I don't know, 5. And now we have some recipe ingredients. Create new. Quantity, we need 1. Comment peel first. Recipe ID 1. Okay, that should actually be a dropdown. Oh, it is a dropdown. Ingredient ID 1. Create. Okay, we have our first recipe. We have our ingredients, water and potatoes, recipe ingredients. Quantities, I don't know, let's say 3. Comment boil. And there is no comment. Recipe ID is 1, ingredient is maybe 2, whichever one was the first one. Comment, okay, is needed. All right, that's not maybe the best thing. So, okay, it seems that the database is okay. Seems at least. So I can have my recipes, I can have my my ingredients, and then I can combine those recipe ingredients into one specific recipe. One has both ingredients with some quantity. Whatever is the ingredient 1, okay, water the other way. So, okay, that one went bad. So this is boil it, and quantity, let's say, is 3. Peel them, and let's say 1 kilogram of potatoes. Okay, this is kind of like the, let's say, the second, first leg is this. Define your database structure. Second leg is what I have done now. So actually define it in the code. Create a migration. Apply the migration so that the database is actually created, and then scaffold the web pages and test that your database is okay. But actually, you can achieve the data structure and input the data you think that needs to be there. So, and now starts the kind of like the main thing. or let's say not the main thing, but let's say main visible thing. Make an application out of it. So this is unusable, ugly crap. So this is definitely failed application. So if you present this kind of stuff to me, then no, this is not acceptable. It's not usable. So now call your grandparent here or grandma and say that, okay, I made a fancy application to digitize all your recipe books. So let's do it. And try to see your mother, let's say, and try to see that can she or your grandparent, whoever, can he or she actually use this thing and like make something useful out of it. So let's start to work on it. So what shall be in the home page? What's typically there? When we open up, maybe, and the other thing what I want to have is maybe a picture of the food would be also nice. Okay, this is maybe like nice to have feature in the future, but maybe it would be nice to add a picture of the thing when it's finalized. That's the kind of like the next thing. But initially we have what? We have like list of recipes probably, plus the filtering capability. So we want to see what can we actually like make. So okay, so basically our home page is more or less should look something like this one here. So the list of recipes. Okay, so now I can actually put back the nullable warnings or errors and say that yes, please, I don't want to compile without those. So the warning is about what? Ingredient. Okay, that one is definitely default. So let's rebuild it and see what else do we get. So this is what recipe. Okay. First, I actually want to reference not the ID but the name. And the ingredient is also ingredient name. Okay, this needs the default. So then this one, the drop downs are bad. This is what ingredients. And better is to use name off here. So this one, model recipe ingredient, and I actually probably want to have the recipe name. And the last one. Oh, that one is already fixed. Rebuild. What's this? Possible null reference. I have no idea what to do with those. Where is those things even coming from? I can fix those. Return not found. Oh, okay. Now I have a conflict here. I tell that this thing cannot be a null. So it's a default. But here I'm actually checking that, hey, it can be a null. So now I have a conflicting declaration. So this one actually is a null. But now I have the next problem. This can be a null. So the model can be null, or this recipe ingredient inside the model can be null. So now I have to basically tell here that, hey, forget it. So this gets annoying. Can I have kind of like a better fix around it? So if I tell, for example, here that go to hell. Okay, I'll keep the warnings for now. Let's see, let's run it. Recipes, ingredients, recipe ingredients. Yes, now at least have those like nice names here. And create new. I can actually see the recipe ID and water and potatoes. Okay. So now we need to fix whatever is there in the home page. Pages, index. So that one here. Okay, welcome is nice. So this is our recipe book. And now here I need my data first. So basically whatever is here in the recipe is index. So I need to do similar stuff. So I need DbContext. That's definitely. Then I need to initialize it from the constructor. Then I need this list of recipes. And then on get the sync, actually need to get those. And import everything that's missing. Okay, now the code is the same. And now I can figure out how the page should even know what it should look like. Is it like list of recipes? Or is it a like list of cards of recipes? Like gaming cards? Okay, kind of like most utilitarian will be just a list. So I can just basically grab the copy of the table and use it also here. So let's run it. Okay, I have a recipe book. Recipe name, boiled potatoes. All right. So okay, edit details, delete is okay. Probably I also need the create from here, so I can always add a new recipe. So that will be this link. So this will be recipes create. Okay, now I need to do what? I need to search those recipes. So let's say, of course, creating a new recipe is totally messed up. It's really ugly and not usable, but at least it works. So if I go back and look at the exercise of what I need to do, provide search functionality. Plus, I need to somewhere when I do the details or something, somewhere I need to show the recalculation of the ingredients. So I need to add a form here. So how can I, that will search me what the hell is going on here? So let's design a form. Examples, no, documents, components, no, forms. So something like this, email address. Yep, this is kind of like the form component. So it should be somewhere here. So what kind of form should it even be? Like we need to search over what recipe name, description, and the ingredients. So what will be a useful search? So one like text field probably, which will search over the recipe name and over the description. And then the next text field that will go over the ingredients. And probably the nice search would be something like that, like this. Like I can write here like water, potato, and something here like I don't know. Bake. So this string is used to search over the name, description, and this one will be ingredients. Maybe something like this. So I need two fields, seems to be. So one and the second. Plus then I need this submit button somewhere. And probably my search would be nice if it is not a submit, but a GET request. So I can copy the URL and send it to somebody that, hey, look at this, my proposal for whatever Thanksgiving is to produce this. So the URL will be shareable. So this will be an action, not an action. Method will be a get. And the value is search. So name and description, and this one will be ingredients, comma, list. Okay, and now I need some nice names for those. And nice UI, so placeholder, like let's say cake, sugar, milk, type is a text. Almost. Maybe it's like too wide. Definitely looks a little bit ugly. So maybe I want to do something like this. For the class, I want to do a div. Let's say this is a row. So this is a column. Let's say it's a column, maybe 6. And then maybe 2. And let's put those things into the left-hand side and this thing into the right-hand side. Let's see what it will look like this. Almost, still too wide. So this is probably 4. And then the search should be here in the bottom. This is somehow doable, but I don't know how. I leave in bottom maybe. Will this do it? No. Let's see if I inspect it, what can I say? So this has this length. No, doesn't fix it. Range elements. Top from the vertical. Position relative. What? Outer one is position relative.
That is the absolute value.
And then that one will be position. No, not that one. That one? Like this? No, I actually want to have this one. No, I'm not so sure about it anymore. I'm not the HTML designer. Oh, almost. Maybe we should have some kind of like margin bottom. Or I can do it a little bit nicer the other way. Okay, let it be. So it's almost there. So if I make a search, so I want to search for cake with milk, search, doesn't do anything. Where did it go? No. Submit, yes, form method is a get. ASP, no, I don't need a page here. What the hell for? Yep, that's the only one I need. Label for ID, and I also want to have the name here. No, I got it. Name was missing. So now I have those two parameters, and I will get those as a get parameters. So I can now, not here, add those here. So this will be a string search name. And now the kind of like the main thing, how will I search? So I will get those parameters, I will get the search name and the search ingredient, and now I need to actually work with those. So I can do something like this. Let's say recipe query equals. As queryable. So now I can kind of try to figure out how can I use those parameters, or maybe I can do it all in a single line. How can I use those parameters and how should they even work? So recipe query where. So this is the recipe dot recipe name. Let's convert it to the two upper. Contains this search name. to upper. If string is null or wait space, search name, and actually when it isn't. So then let's add this condition. When the string is there, even more, we probably can make it a little bit nicer. Let's say here that let's trim it just in case, so we get rid of all the spaces. So if the recipe name contains the thing we want to, or recipe ingredients, and basically the same thing. Let's convert it to the upper, and it has to contain our search string. No, it's not recipe ingredients, it's the description. Okay, we can try this thing out. No, AAA was not there. OILED. Yep. OILED is there. Them. Yep, them is also there. Okay, but now I want to search via those ingredients also. So this takes a little bit more careful thinking. So the first thing is those two fields, this text field and this text field. Is it and or?
And
You think? Where's the or? Like this kind of like the business decision, which one it should be.
maybe you don't know what to put ingredients, so search recipes. So
Yes,
or-
I mean if you leave one of those empty, then it's definitely or. Okay, empty one should be ignored. But if I fulfill both, if I write something here and something here, is it and or?
So if we add, because if you leave empty, then it's so ignore it.
So if it's and, then it's a little bit and is much simpler to do because and is just consecutive wheres. So where first, find all the recipes that have the correct name and description, and then list is already limited somewhat, and then take the list and try to find what the ingredients are then there. Then this is much easier. When it's or, then it's much harder to construct, just like that. So we can now make the other step. So if this search ingredient is not null, now we can figure out something here. So first thing, what I need is probably I need to split the string via the commas. Get rid of the commas, trim everything, so I just get the like single words out of it. Is there something like string.split? No, is there split on the string itself? Yep, there is a split. Char separator. Separator is this. And definitely, just in case, I first want to do a trim here. So this will give me the array of strings split by a comma. Maybe I still have problem here that those might include spaces. So if it is something like this, x comma y, then it will be split by the comma. But the spaces here in between will be included. So I probably need to do some kind of like for each. Or not. Let's see what's better. Can I do it directly here? No, there is no map here. So let's do then the for cycle. Upper will be search ingredients dot length. And this is the variable. Okay, now I have my search ingredients. So now we need to figure out the query. Where? So what is it? The recipe dot recipe ingredients. That one should probably contains. So this is now the ingredient. No, contains is not the one I want. I probably want any. And now I need to check that comment ingredient dot ingredient name contains. And now I want to check against the substrings. So is there any? If this one is there, then this, yes, please include this recipe where the ingredient dot ingredient name contains what? What are the overloads? Show me. Doesn't. Source this no char value. Okay, I can do it. Seems that I can do it the other way around. So I can grab the search ingredients. No. This has to be a substring on their side. Still search ingredients dot any. So this is the search string I dot comment. What is the I recipe? Yeah, I need the I dot ingredient name contains, has to be upper, contains the S. This gets complicated a little bit. So what I'm doing? So when it's ready, then it's easier to read. So basically, take whatever recipes we already have, yeah? So whatever was already limited in this step here, maybe nothing. If nothing was limited, then it's just full recipes, everything in the database. Okay, then first step, split split the search string into the components, if there are any, by the comma. And just in case, go over them one by one and do the trim. So remove all the spaces at the front, at the end. Okay. So now modify the query, add a where condition, where clause. Where, then what? Go over all the recipes. And then take recipes one by one. So take one recipe and take all the recipe ingredients. Then execute. When we have the recipe ingredients for the one recipe, execute an any. So any is a method that will return a true as soon as a first match is found. So when the first positive hit is there, then returns true and doesn't search further. So it's not fully exhaustive. So when the first hit is there, then it finished with the true result. So execute now the any on the recipe ingredients. So take one recipe, take all the recipe ingredients, and start to go over them one by one. So now the I is one ingredient in this specific recipe. So one recipe, take the first ingredient. Now we have the ingredient. Now we take search ingredients, since this is also an array. Array also has a list any. So it has the same operator, any. So now, when we arrive here, we have one recipe, the one ingredient from that recipe, the first one initially. And now start to go over the ingredients. Start to iterate over the search terms. When you go over the search terms, take the first search term. And now go back to the I. So take the first ingredient and ask from the ingredient, hey, ingredient, please give me your actual, so this is the recipe ingredient. So the recipe ingredient, please go to the ingredient, take the ingredient name, convert it to upper, and then check contains, does the ingredient name contains the search ingredient, first one from the list we are currently dealing with. If this one contains, then this is a true. If this is a true, then this any is true, and then this means that this recipe will be true. We are done, include it. If this is false, then go back here, take the next item in the list, try again. If this is false, take the next one, next one, next one. If everything is false, then everything is false from the ingredients, then the where will be this or the recipe that we're looking at will be false. So then try the next one. So let's see, will this work? So recipe ingredients, we have what water and potatoes, yeah? Let's see, I search for the water. Hurrah, crashed. Ingredient name to upper contains could not be translated. Okay, as enumerable. So it's unhappy about what this line here. Ingredient name to upper contains. Oh, okay, I know what it is. What can I do with that one? So what it complains here is this, that can't be translated. So basically what it tells us is that this query cannot be converted into the database operation. Cannot convert it into the database. So it cannot figure out how to make an SQL sentence out of it. So we can make a lengthy process how to figure it out. In theory, it should be possible. At least I can kind of like see in my head that I can write this kind of SQL, probably. But what it complains to us, or what is the kind of like the solution here? Switch to client evaluation. So if the thing is already in memory, then we can execute this thing. We just cannot, or C# cannot figure out the way how to convert it into SQL sentences. And this is actually a pretty complex thing, how to figure out, even if you want to do it manually. So write a direct SQL like this is not kind of like the easiest thing what to do. So what we can do here is to do exactly what they told us, is to convert it into the in-memory operation. Not the most efficient thing, but can be done. So let's say we can now do here this. Let's figure it out if it's null. So let's say else it's this. Now here we already have the recipes now in memory. And now we can do something like this. Recipe equals recipe where, and should probably convert it to the to list at the end. So get data from DB to memory. Filter it in memory. Water. Okay, value cannot be null. Parameter source. What? Where is this? 51, 50. Recipe ingredients any. How come it's null? We trim, we split, there should be only one. Why? Ingredient name to upper, contains S, and this one, so those should actually to upper, definitely. But let's see, I will put a breakpoint here and see what it does. Let's debug it. Okay, let's search. That one is okay. Blah, blah, blah. This one still works. Water. Let's see. Search ingredients is water. That's correct. So what doesn't it like? Recipe where? There should be at least one recipe. Let's see this. Yep, recipe has one. Oh, I know. It's null because we didn't do the joins. We actually need full data here. So the problem starts from here. Yep. Water. Potato. Still there. Auto. Yes. X. Nothing. So now it's almost there. So of course, search should probably keep the values here. So if I click search, then those should not go away, so that I can actually see that, hey, this is now filtered list for whatever reason. So let's fix that one. So we need those search name and search ingredient as a properties.
But how you did fix the last bug?
Hold on 1 moment. So initially those are empty, or let's say can be nulls also. So I can add those here. Search name, and the other one is the search ingredient. Now it stays. Now, of course, I need to do something with this one. And clear. Button is no? Warning, maybe. And maybe the clear should only be visible when model.search ingredient is not equal to the null, or model.search name is not equal to the null. The question is now, how can I get the value of the search or clear? So which one happened? Input type is a submit value. Do I need something like name here? I think that it actually is submitted. Like, let's say, button. I know button is not the, let's say, action. Yep, and I have action. Okay, so now I can also say that I want to get the string action here. And if action equals to clear, search name equals null, search ingredient equals also null. Clear? No. Why not? When it is a clear. Oh, it's capital C, sorry. Search, clear. So your question was?
How you fix the last problem with this queries?
What was the last problem? Remind me.
Some nulls.
Oh, the problem was that here in the query, I started to go down by the list or by the depths of entities. So take the recipe, then from the recipe, take the recipe ingredients. From the recipe ingredients, go take the ingredient. But to actually do that, and I do it in memory, not in the database query, this means that if I do it in memory, the data has to be there in memory. So to get the data in memory, I did this include and then include. So bring the collections with the data together, so the joins.
It's like the load the data and after you can work with it.
Yes, work the data. So this is definitely something we will fix on the next semester or deal a lot with that. So this one, get data from database to the memory and then start to filter it on memory. This is definitely something you're not allowed to do next semester. So whatever it takes, this is not how the system should work. So because let's say you have like 10 million recipes and you only just want one. So what will you do? Copy all 10 million recipes into with all the ingredients, with everything, copy them all into the memory, run out of memory almost, or something like that. And then discard everything, just get one of those like 10 million items. So no, this is definitely very, very, very bad kind of like solution in the long run. So it's totally okay if you have like 6 records or like, I don't know, 1,000 records in the database, then it's like fits always. And we're running this application alone, so it's not a real problem. But if you actually will host it, and it's actually kind of like, let's say, popular service, then this will kill off your application in the server. So this is definitely kind of like not the best thing to do. So now we have solved those issues. Our search form is more or less functional. Of course, if I would like to make it nice, then the next thing is what to do here. If I write here boil and search. Okay, let's add some other recipe here. Create new recipe name. Let's say cake. Description. Potato cake. Service, I don't know, file. It has water, potatoes, let's say ingredient name, milk, standard quantity is 1 liter, create, and recipe ingredients, create new, so it's cake, it needs potatoes, quantity, let's say is 1. Okay, this one needs to be fixed. So cake has 1 potato. And then it has, let's say, 1 liter of milk. It's not boiled potatoes, it's a cake, and it needs a milk. So, okay, now I have 2 recipes, yeah? So now when I search cake, I get just a cake. Why did I, from the user experience viewpoint, is the question, why did I get the cake? So even more if I search, let's say, like this, key, why did I get the cake? So kind of like the nice thing will be that the phone substrings should be made bold. Like the user can see that, okay, this recipe was brought out because like the text is visible there. Will be nice, kind of. The task doesn't specify it, but I will ask from you that why didn't you do it? Isn't that like kind of like obvious? Why didn't you think about it? Explain to me, why didn't you think about it? How can your grandma understand like lengthy list of recipes? You filter it down to the like little bit shorter list of recipes. Why are all those recipes there? Then the next thing is this ingredients. We start to filter by those, but those are not listed here visibly at all. So like, how can I understand why do I see those recipes if I don't see any of the ingredients at the same time on the screen? So this is kind of like the user experience question, that is it okay to allow the user to search and then when the thing is filtered, you actually cannot see the things you filtered by. Like, actually, those things should most likely be visible somehow. That why is this list now limited to those items? But the next problem, kind of like, this is now acceptable. Let's say this would be actually pretty good work already if you do present something like this. But yes, we don't have the survey calculation. And the first thing, what was extremely ugly, the next thing is that when I created a new recipe, this was like almost like unacceptable. Like this, how do I put together the recipe was non-usable or like really, really hard to use, and definitely not something that any normal user would like to access. So we need to figure out the way or how this thing will be better. So we have those, let's say home, we have the recipes. If I go into edit, it doesn't go anywhere. So let's fix the links, because the edit should actually go to the correct place. So it should go into the recipes edit, and the same with the rest of the stuff. So this doesn't look good. Plus, when I do the edit here, definitely this one, if you present some kind of logic like I have here currently, that to add a new item to the recipe, I need to go here into the recipe ingredients and then see all the ingredients in all the recipes and then start to add from there, then this is definitely not okay. So it should be something like this edit. And now I should also see here the list of items. And then plus add the possibility to like modify those, like change that one or remove, delete, blah, blah, blah. So it should all be visible here in the one page. Plus add new item also from here into the list. So let's, how much time do we have? Like 1 hour. So let's try to make it more usable. And I'm running slowly out of battery. 17%. So it goes into the, so let's try to figure it out. When I click create new, it goes into the recipes create, that's fine. And when we create the recipe like this, it should jump into the edit view probably. But let's fix the edit first. So we already have the recipe, now we need to figure out what to do with the ingredients here. So it's the recipes edit. One problem we have with the scaffolding first is this. I don't know who the hell I want to like meet this person or something. Actually, I know who it is. Who the hell did write the scaffolding? Like it was decided a long time ago that .NET 6 will support Bootstrap 5. In Bootstrap 5, there is no form group. It's removed. It's not there. So it's not actually doing anything good. So if you look what I did, if I copied the content here in the index and created the form group is now just this margin bottom 3. It's actually exactly the same thing that the form group used to be. But they decided that kind of like, let's use some kind of weird names, use what it is actually, so it's MB3. So one way how to fix it is to do a search replace and replace all those form groups with MB3s, will be one thing. But if you want to continue to use the scaffolding and not fix those manually, then we can probably go here, site CSS, and say something like this, form group. Should be something like this, and it should be margin bottom something 3. No? Kuidas ma saan teha klassile CSS klassile aliast? Kas ma saan üldse? Vist ei saa. Ehk meil ei ole enam form groupi. Minna selle asemel nüüd MB3. Mida MB3 teeb? Margin bot on üks rem important C-le. Okay, this should fix our forms. Yep, now the spacing is like a little bit better. Then the next problem we have here is this. What input field is it? Can you say, looking at the eyes, with your eyes? Is it the text input or is it the dropdown? Nobody knows. I mean, it looks like it is a text input, yeah? But it actually is a dropdown. So what the hell? And the hell is also Bootstrap 5. So if we go into the forms, it's a select. So now it is a class form select. And if we look what it was, what did it generate to us? Recipe ingredients, yeah. So it's a class form control. But it should be form select. And that one also. And on the yeah. And that one, and that one. Now it is a drop-down. More understandable what the hell is going on. Okay, but let me close down everything. We wanted to fix this one, edit. So on the recipe, on the edit. So the recipe should actually include the ingredients and then include the ingredient. And now we need to also, if we want to fix it nicely, figure out what we do with those. If recipe equals to null, this means that it can be null. So it should be question mark here. Once again, who did write the scaffolding? So like now our code is okay, but now the edit is bad because here actually I want to tell that, hey, if we arrive here, then it's definitely not null. Probably I can do a search and replace. Edit, find, replace. Find it and replace it with the recipe. Replace all. What's now here? One mistake somewhere. Where? Oh, here. On post async. Yep, here the recipe is definitely not null anymore. On the post side, it's definitely there. Okay, back to list, save. So after the save, so somewhere here we need to list all the ingredients in that recipe. So let's add the ingredients. And then we can just basically make the table here, and or we can grab it from here. So we can make a copy of that one. So it's a model dot what we have recipe dot recipe. Okay, I made a copy of wrong table. Let's get rid of that one. I need recipe ingredients copy. And it's not a null here, it's probably, I don't know, recipe ingredients, null, yes, dot. No, it's a list, so this one needs to be a first, and then it's quantity, yes. And that one also. Okay, so let's see, is this thing working? Yep. Boil them, do them something. Cake. Okay, the comment was weird. This one needs to fix in the database. This can be a null, or should be possible at least to save the empty string. Cake, potatoes, milk. So this is almost all right. So what do we want to see here? We want to see the quantity, the comment. We definitely don't want to see the recipe. We want to see the ingredient, but probably the ingredient should be in the first place. then the quantity, and probably the comment is not listed here at all. So it's the ingredient name, the quantity, and I think the comment might be here. And the recipe name is not used here because you already know what recipe it is. And probably the comment should be, is there something like small? Yep. A little bit better. And so you have to work through the stuff here, make it usable. So step by step, build up a usable application. So our search form is mostly okay already. And now we're working on the edit of the recipe. Okay, name, description, servings. And now we have the ingredients, water, potatoes. With the quantity, we can go to the edit from here. Now we need to figure out if you go to the edit from here, what shall happen actually? And if you are done with the edit, where shall it go? So how should the edit look like here? Like nice thing definitely to do will open up some kind of like section here underneath, so it like slides down, or modal, something like pops up, like edit, close it. Okay, this is probably like too much of JavaScript for you. So, but definitely what you can do and what you should understand is this, that when you click the edit, it should go to the edit. So recipe ingredients, something like this. So this form should open up with the correct thing, but not just with the kind of like, you shouldn't be able to change the recipe ID from here. So it still should be stayed attached to the same recipe. So you cannot just move it from one recipe to the next and stuff like that. Plus the recipe ID is definitely bad here. So first the drop down is bad, and then when it's not dropped down, you should just like print out nicely like the recipe ID or the recipe name is this, you're modifying this component correctly. And when you click the save here, from here, it definitely shouldn't go back here into the like list of ingredients. It should go back where we started from. So it should load back this page. So go back here into the edit, into this one. So we need a bunch of additional parameters. Or we actually don't need, because we already have everything in database. So we are in the recipes edit. So this will be not just local edit anymore. This will be the recipe ingredients edit. We definitely don't need the details. We don't want that one, I think. So we need just an edit and delete. Okay, ID is here, okay. This points out the recipe ingredient thing. Okay, we can try that one out. So water inside this recipe edit. Ingredient ID 1, recipe ID 1. Ingredient 1 was water, yep. So it goes into the correct thing. Goes here. So let's work on that one. So we do the recipe ingredient. So recipe ID, no, we don't want that one at all. ingredient ID, that one is okay, but probably this should be at least initially name of ingredient.ingredient name. So what shall happen here? So on get async, we also need the reference to the recipe. So when we load the recipe ingredients, include ingredient, include recipe. So everything is already included. And this can be a null. So in theory, in edit, this cannot be a null. So we can, for example, remove this default from here. So it's first async. But now the problem is that if it's first async, if the item is not there in the database, if somebody modifies the URL manually, supplies the wrong ID, we'll crash. So this thing will throw an exception that, sorry, it's not there in the database, because we tell the database that first async, there has to be a matching record. So give me the first one from the list. And if you want to be even more specific about it, there is single async, which tells that there has to be only one. So exactly one record. And this is it, not less, not more. So if it's first or default async, then we have issue that what to do with this declaration here. Is it the nullable or not nullable? So one way we can do this. So let's say this is the local recipe ingredient. If this is null, and if it's not null, now we know that it isn't null anymore. Now we can do the recipe ingredient equals, and now everything is okay. So probably this is kind of like the easiest solution actually. So we first do not load the data into this variable here with a capital R into the class property. We load it into the local, check the local. If it's null, then go to hell, not found. And if it's not null anymore, then we can save it into the property. Okay, so and we also include the recipe here. So we actually know that the recipe ingredient we are dealing with always includes the recipe data also, because we include both sides, the ingredient and the recipe. So left side and the right hand side. So we don't need to create the recipe like externally or extra. So recipe ingredient, we can write now here in recipe model.recipe ingredient dot recipe name. Plus we remove this recipe ID. Since we remove the recipe ID, this means that it has to be now the hidden property. Otherwise, we will try to save the recipe ID as a 0, and the save will crash. Okay, boiled potatoes, boil them, edit. No, now I want to edit the potatoes, peel them. Recipe ingredient in recipe, boiled potatoes, quantity 1, peel them. We now know that we only want to boil peeled potatoes. And yes, it's potatoes. Save. Yep, save went okay. But now we know that when we arrive here in the save, we don't redirect back to the index. So we actually want to redirect back to the, where were we? I think we were in the recipes. And we arrived from the edit, I think. And then we need plus the, where are you? Recipe ingredient. Dot, and it should be the recipe ID you're editing. So edit, potatoes, edit, quantity 2, save. Oh, named recipes edit matches, no page. What did you do? Recipes edit 1, why? Oh, ID 1. Sorry. Like this. Low battery. Soon. 10%. jah. Päeva lõpuni ikkagi välja ei vea. Ma ei tea, ma kusjuures panin seda korda kinni kõik ilusti. Aga Microsoft Teams tapab akut. Water, let's change it to the 1, save. What? Invalid operation, no page named. Am I stupid or what? Probably I am stupid. Why? Redirect to page. What is here?
ID is a second parameter.
I think, yeah, I think yes. Route values, yeah? Okay, then it's the classical route values. It's a new anonymous object and it's the ID equals that one. So this is how you give the route values. It's the same as the ASP-route- something, and whatever are the properties here in this anonymous object. You can add as many as you like to ID, comma, first name, last name, blah, blah, blah. All those will be added as a query string parameters or the URL parameters, depending on how the routing is configured. Okay, let's go edit that one, cake. It needs more milk, 1.5. Yep. And now I'm back at this page. Much better already. Definitely more usable. So this is how you fix the code here. So step by step, work through the application to make it kind of like usable. So and basically, this is what you will do to the end of your working life. The complicated part was like over in 30 minutes. And now when the 30 minutes is over, the complicated part is done. The database is configured and designed. The search form was like a little bit more interesting. And then you just have to grudge and work through the pages a lot. So maybe you will be more lucky in that sense that if you work on the bigger projects, that you have the designer and the HTML designer as a separate person. Somebody will produce like ready-made HTML for you. So you get like page templates will be made for you in pure HTML. You just need to convert them into the correct Razor pages or whatever is the technology you're using, and kind of like flesh out the business logic behind it. But if you are on your own or in the smaller team, then definitely you need to also deal with HTML a lot. And now the only thing I need here is add a new one. So how to add a new ingredient here? So to add a new ingredient definitely should be already here on the top of the page. So that one definitely shouldn't need that I need to visit the page where to add the ingredient. That will be like a really bad thing from the UI point of view or user experience point of view, because when I add a new ingredient, I want to see what I have already listed there. So otherwise, when you kick me into the new page, I already forget what was on the previous page. So this will be kind of like small form. So this is the first form here, edit the recipe, and then second small form here underneath the ingredients headline, that where the last one is like last element on the form is add this thing into the list of ingredients. So you can add those one by one into here. And even from here, when I go to the edit, this back to the list should definitely take me back to the home page, not back to the list of recipes. So the same goes for the both semesters here and the next one also, that those scaffolded pages are not really usable for anything. So those are just kind of like starting points or seeing what the scaffolding is doing, what the current kind of like code standard is, and then it's just heavy rewrite all the time and add manually or stuff. So directly, there is nothing you can do really well with those scaffolded pages. What I'm doing typically in my own projects, if I generate those scaffolded controllers or pages, I will just hide them behind some kind of like a separate area and call those like admin or like PHP myadmin like direct view into the database. So because you cannot let anybody use those directly, because basically you can overwrite anything what is there in the database. So this is it. So we can just crouch through the pages here step by step. But basically you got the idea. What will expect you in the examination? The task might be a little bit more complex, but not that much. So there's, let's say, maybe 3 to the 5 entities what you have to deal with, not more. So something like that on scale. Some search form, and mainly like let your fantasy fly and do whatever you want to do, what you can do, and can figure out what to do to make like nice and presentable and usable small website application thing out of it.
How many time do we have for this task?
How much time do you have? 12 hours about. So we start in the morning at the 9, let's say 11 hours. 1 hour for the theory, and then let's say evening at 9, we probably want to get out from here. So let's say 12 hours. Next semester it will be 24. And typically last ones of you will take about 24 hours. And if it really kind of like gets too long, then you probably can go home and then defend it over the long distance or something like that. But we really do not want to do it. So let's say 12 hours for the whole examination. So theory plus practical part. Okay, so we have one question I see in the chat. So let's see, can Andres do this or that? So let's clarify a little bit the task. Create a random board with the ships already placed. Thus everything needs to be randomized. So let's see, what do we have there in the description? Okay, it's not a random board. Let's say, how can I word it? Let user choose game options, size and rows, and generate a board with random ship placements. Okay, and then keep track of events, replay them later. What is expected here? Move history. Let's see. Undo, redo, continue, functionality. Absolutely, it's easy to do. You serialize your board into the JSON, your state, and you do not overwrite your JSON state. You keep track of your states. So you have like in database, you have like time-stamped JSON states of what was there on the board currently. So what rules, and you can then go back, go forward, and then like say, I will continue from the middle of the game from somewhere. Yep. So depending how many, basically you need just 2 game boards. So one is yours, the second one is the enemy one's. So you need 2 game boards. You can serialize them into one JSON string. Where is your game state? So the both board states and the overall game state, whose turn is it, etc. Everything is there in the state. So you can make one huge JSON string out of it, and then just save it with the timestamp into the database. So you have like basically you have like 2 tables almost. Okay, you have game options tables also, but for the game itself, you have 2 tables, like game with the players, with the names, and then secondary table like this is your game, and this will be your game states. So game state JSON, timestamp. Then have like list of those. So you can always load any random game state what is there in the database from the middle of the game, if you want to, and then start from that place again.
Should you so you can modify it as well or not?
That
would be like if I finish my game here and I go back into the middle, then I shouldn't be able to make any moves.
If you can make this rule that if the game is already done, if it's over, you have already seen where all the ships are, then you do not allow to load the game again. Okay, you do not allow to continue the game from the middle. You can do that one, definitely. But you can still replay. You can say that give me the animation of replay. You can make it rotate it on the screen. So load it one by one, step by step by step by step. Redraw it. Load next one. Redraw it till it gets to the end. But that's totally up to you. So it's kind of like pointless to continue already finished game, or let's say load the already finished game and allow to continue from the middle. But this is kind of like business rule decision. Technically, there's like no difference. And if you do this, so basically you have this like game, you have states, like you have like timestamp states, you can move back and forward. And if you decide that, hey, I want to continue from this one here, from the third move, but actually, let's say 6 moves were already made. So then you need to basically discard those. Why not? See, so
you can make a new game.
you can make a copy of it. So you can make a new. So if it was game 1 with states 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, if you decide that now I want to make a new game, move 4 from here.
Like if one player is winning, he's like the losing player is like, nope, I go back. Let's make a new game.
Why not? This is more a programming exercise. It's like a chess or any other such game. I want to go back, I want to undo and rethink what I'm doing. Sorry, I made a mistake. Like if there is this like boats, like this, I make a hit here, and then suddenly, oops, I made the next move here. Oh, sorry. Like my cat jumped onto the keyboard. I didn't want to do that one. Sorry, undo, take this one back. I actually meant to go here.
How we can implement the multiple layer, like if we have 2 browsers, for example, and we have brain in the one page, like behind in the page model. So how we can connect the layers and synchronize it?
Different ways. How can you do it? We did it with the simple rock, paper, scissors demo last time here somewhere. Basically, you need to figure out what you need to figure out is this. So there's many ways definitely how to do it.
I mean, we have, for example, like 2 players with 2 browsers, like.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the, let's say, browser 1 and browser 2, yeah? So what shall happen here? They both connect, both browsers go to the same URL and load the, I don't know, list of games, or let's say start a new game. So let's say, so this is like V1, browser 1 with the person 1, player, first person, yeah? Let's say how the thing should look like in the simplest case, what we can think of, without doing anything like fancy JavaScript and direct communication and stuff like that. So our only connecting point is the database. There's nothing else. So because this browser instance is here in Tallinn, this browser instance is somewhere, I don't know, in the other side of the world, and the only thing they have, which is shared, is the server between them, the web server, and the only thing that is there in the web server is basically the database. So when they both load the list of games, there's nothing there. So everything starts from the scratch. Yeah? So initially we have nothing. So this guy here makes a new game. So we get the, let's say, ID 1, yeah? Let's say it's a game ID 1. And enters as a player here. So if it plays against the computer, then everything is clear. So it's like locally against the server and nothing there. But starts a new 2-player game. So and enters itself as a first player. So now how can we now pick up the second player? So basically we need that somebody joins the game. So basically what should happen here is now that when somebody else goes and loads the list, it should see a list of games that only have, either he can start a new game totally from the scratch himself, or he can see a list of games that have 1 player missing, and they can choose that, hey, join this game. So basically what we need to have is, we need to have somehow the way how to identify persons or the players themselves. So basically we need to ask some kind of like a username or generate some random ID or something. So we can do something like this. Let's say ID equals blah, 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 something. So question now comes that if you generate a random ID, you close a browser, then you lose the ID. you can back. How can I continue already existing games where I was already a member? So we need a way how to save the somewhere locally the random ID. There's two ways how to change, not random, let's say the username. There's two ways how to save the username. Either you save it into the cookie, which is totally easy to do in .NET. Just search for the .NET cookie and you will find how to create a cookie. So then you can load the cookie back and identify the user that way. Or you can ask from the user that, hey, please give me your username. If you ask for the username, then there's always a chance that there will be some kind of collision with somebody else. But okay, in your case, probably you don't need to worry about it. So let's hope that users don't use the identical usernames. So you can ask from the username. So basically, you can always do this, that user equals, I don't know, Akaver here. So the first thing when you go to the web page, you actually start from this, that, hey, please give me your username. So you already know that this is user Akaver, and somebody here is user equals, I don't know, Pille. So now, basically, if you know the username, so now when you list the games, you can actually show that not join the game anymore on some of the games, but continue a game, because you can see that, hey, this username Akaver is actually listed as a player 1 or player 2 in this kind of like one of those specific games. And the same happens on the other side. If I start a new game, I will add this username Akaver as a player name. So then this is kind of like the list of allowed games for this browser. And when this one joins from here, so list the games, there should be a like list of games and possibilities of, so this one needs to be thrown out. Possibility to join the game. So now you can take the game entry from the database and actually add this username Pille there, so both are there. And now you need to figure out what shall be done now. So let's see, we have the game. We have the user 1 and user 2, yeah? And let's say I can put something like easier, done, yeah? Game over or not. So this is in-process game. How many in-process games can I have? Like it's this done is false. Can I have multiple games? Do you want to support multiple games between the same players? In theory, might be like I can have like multiple chess games with you ongoing, like one long-term game, one short, and with different rules. Yeah. Okay, we want to support that one. So in theory, it can we can end up with situation that we have list of games on both sides where we are both members. So we have a list here. Blah, 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 blah. This is, let's say, me, and here we have the Pille, and some Kalle. Yeah? So what I actually want to do now is to click here and say continue. And when I click onto the continue, so I have both members here. I can only click continue when we have both players fixed here. We have player 1 when we have player 2, so both are there. So then I can click continue, and then this will go into the, let's say, game. So that one will have the ID equals 27 from that one, and user equals me, and also we should know which one should make the next move, and then either you show that, hey, make a move now, you save the move, and then you start to wait when somebody else does the move there. The only thing that kind of makes it annoying where you actually need your JavaScript or some kind of other functionality is this, that how can I understand when the other player has actually made the move? So I made my move here, it's done, and now I'm waiting for the other side to make a move. So basically what you need to do is to go and check from the database, hey, this is done, it's done, it's done, it's done, can I do something? No, yes, no, yes. So you can make basically a separate page that auto refreshes itself. Or you can just click refresh and reload the page and see that, okay, can I do now the next move? No. Can I do now the next move? No. Can I do now? No. Okay, JavaScript will help a lot here.
Can we make it not via the database, but maybe via the brain? Like two players have the same brain, like on the same page.
Doesn't matter which way you do it. You can do it via the brain. You can make the brain static.
Yes.
Although this is really bad because if you make the brain static, then it's static for absolutely everyone. You don't have different brain instances anymore. Then you just your whole server can only support 2 users then. Because all the web pages share the same. Doesn't matter who will open up the connection to the server, they will always see the same instance of the brain. So no, I do not recommend making the brain like static globally. So better is when you load the page, when you go here, you grab from here the game ID, the username, whatever else you need, and just load it from the database and restore it from the database every time.
And like every move, we should load some data from the database.
Absolutely, yes.
And
you load the whole game brain. You initialize the game brain again from the database, because this is the concept behind the web that you really need to learn. That web is stateless. So every web request starts from the scratch totally. So everything is restored all the time. So we have some ways how to like save some state and fake around it. Basically every request starts from the scratch. So it's kind of like standard. Web is stateless. It's written into the standard itself. So what you can do is that when the request comes in, all the data has to be there. So the usernames, IDs, cookies, whatever else is there. And I can wait 2 months before I click the submit again or open up my laptop again. So everything should be restored from whatever info is there in the GET request. So whatever you need to restore your game has to be there in the GET request. Okay, it can be boost or whatever, but in the request, all the info needs to be there. Because Ian, what might happen is that you need to, or you want to restart your web server between the 2 moves. It's totally okay. I made 1 move now, I go to the vacation, came back, I will come back in, I don't know, 2 months and click move, and it should work if possible. Doesn't matter that you have like 5 times restarted your server and made the new deploys and new version of the code, and if it's possible, then it should continue to play. So you need to figure out everything. So basically, whatever is there in the URLs goes into the database, load the correct data from the database, and display the correct web page based on the whatever you figure out from the URL. There is no way around it otherwise, or the other way. And then on the next level, on the next semester, you can make it like fancy. Like then there's like JavaScript and like all kinds of like communication behind the scenes, but the principles are still the same. You still need to support like thousands of players with different games in parallel. So you just can make it like look a little bit fancier and make the web nicer, but the principles stay exactly the same. So we can figure out, or we can do a demo about it next time if you want to, if it will help somebody. I'll keep it in mind. So a little bit more advanced demo about building up the web server logic. Okay. Please remind me next time. Be here to ask questions. And so basically this description here and homeworks, this is the same way. It's also on the exam task, like make your best effort. If you think that something is really, really stupid from here, or it doesn't make your minimum viable product, then prove to us that, hey, I had the better solution, or that's stupid, or whatever else. So if you can sell us your ideas, then it's totally okay to do things differently. But there is limit, definitely. You cannot sell to us this idea that I thought that this thing is stupid and I made a recipe book. Like, this is much better game. No, there's limit. There's limits. And you just cannot say like, it's stupid. So it's stupid that I will not do it. So work on it. Any more questions? Then see you next time. So next time, let's try to do a little bit more complex demo. Yep, see you next time. Oodata, räägid kõva häälega.
Ma tahtsin küsida selle replay kohta, et näiteks mul ei ole see mängu keskel saab edasi peavad, vaid mul on nii, et mäng saab läbi, player'id ei saa undud teha, sest ma ei tea, see kõlab väga ebaausalt teise vastu. Ja kui mäng on läbi, siis on replay süsteem, kus sa saad ükshaaval vaadata, mis move tehti.
No, see on juba väga äge, ma ütleksin. No, et eks see continue funktsionaalid ongi siin kõik on. Aga noh, samas kui sul on terve list nagu olemas, noh, tegelikult ei ole tehniliselt väga keerulised keskele tagasi hüpata, ütelda, et davai, viskame kogu ülejäänud listi saab tagant minema ja jätkame nüüd selle koha pealt.
Ja mul oli veel küsimus selle kohta, et meil oli see, et me peame ka salvestama veebist faili. Et see, kuidas sellega on? Et nagu ma saan aru konsoolist, sest enne me tegime selle faili, kuna meil ei olnud databaasi. Aga miks me veebist teeks, kui meil on databaas nüüd?
Et ta töötaks edasi samamoodi. Et mõlemad asjad oleks olemas, on ju. Et kui sul ei ole databaasi.
Aga kuhu see salvestub?
Kuhu ta salvestub on, sa pead kuskilt andma ette selle path'i, on ju, kuhu sul peab kuskil olema optionitesse salvestatud see hardcoded path, on ju. Eks sa pead kasutama sama kohta, mida sinu konsool kasutab, on ju. Eks sa pead seda kahe projekti vahel kuidagi seda kohta jagama, on ju. Et mingisugusel viisil tuleb see, muidu viisakas veebiserveris on see, et sa salvestad veebiserveri kõhtu, on ju. Et täpselt mingisugune kas www-root või mingisugune pages, mingi uploads või mingi koht on, kuhu sa need pistad, on ju. Ja veel järgmine koht veebiserveri puhul on see, et kes need faile peab nägema, on ju. Et kas need failid peavad olema avalikult kättesaadavad, ehk kas nad peavad olema sinu staatiliste failide seas, on ju. Ehk kus on CSS ja mingi pildid, eks nad peavad sinna tekkima, on ju. Või on okei see, kui nad on kuskil serveri kõhus, mis on peidetud avalikkuse eest, et ainult server ise saab sinna kallale. Ja sinul on põhimõtteliselt see, et ta peab, pigem on see, et on sul peidetud, et on sul mingis suvalises kohas sinu kätte, ehk sisuliselt hardcode'i üks path, et näed, siin me oma faile hoiame. Sest ega sul konsoolis peab samamoodi olema mingi path fikseeritud, sest konsoolis on sul see, et sul see konsool käivitub eri kohtades, on ju. Et kui sa paned debug mode'is käima, siis ta läheb ühes kataloogis käima, kui sa paned build'is käima, on ju, või mitte debug'is käima, siis ta läheb käima tegelikult teisest kohast, on ju. Et sul peab nii olema, on mõistlik on mingisugune koht ära fikseerida, on ju, võib-olla C-documents, my games, on ju, või C-user, või mis selle Windowsis on, C-user ja siis mingi username ja desktop, on ju, paned desktopi peale.
Selle salvestamise all ma mõtlesin teha nii, et kui näiteks sa mängid veebis, sa saad alla tõmmata selle mängu ja siis mängida locali edasi, aga ta ei salvesta seda edasi databaasis, see on local game ja siis ongi kaks mängu, üks on failis ja üks on databaasis. Sest muidu, kui sa tõmbad selle alla ja jätkad, siis sa pead leidma sellega databaasit üles ja mõlemat jätkama. Aga mis point siis on allalaadimisel?
Jah, aga selles ma ei olegi mõelnud, et sa peaks saama alla laadida. Ehk selles, et see on sul muidugi mingi pulli tee, et sa laed alla, aga milleks?
Ma ei tea, selles homework 5 te mainisite lihtsalt see, et te ütlesite, et peab olema same functionality, sellepärast mängida. Ja meil oli see, et see tegi JSONis see game ja salvestas selle ära. Siis te ütlesite, et veebis peaks olema sarnane see support sellele.
Jaa, aga selles, et see on sul failides, on ju, ega sa konsoolist ka ei luba neid kuskil alla laadida kasutajale. Nad on ju kuskil mingi...
Jaa, aga kuidas ma kasutaks selles mõttes?
Ega sa kasutad selles mõttes, et sa salvestad on ju ära ühes otsas on ju ja siis teises otsas lähed ütled, näe on ju, täpselt sama andmebaasist teed on ju, kas sa loed failisüsteemist, mis on poolelöövad mängud on ju, või sa loed andmebaasist, mis on poolelöövad mängud.
Okei, aga siis ongi, et locali ei salvesta databaasi, aga näiteks sa teed databaasi mängu, mängid seda, siis salvestad selle endale faili ja siis sa tahad sealt alustada edasi failist. Siis ta mängib failis, mitte databaasis, jah, põhimõtteliselt. Mis point on selle allalaadida kontsepti?
Ei, no allalaadimist ei ole nagu üldse, aga küsimus on, nii kui me peaks klassi vahetama üldse või? Mul tuleb meelde, kuulge, paneks siit ühe salvestuse kinni ja läheks ära teise kohta. Kus sa oled? Stop recording.